Hello and welcome back to Stranded Deep, welcome back to the island editor, welcome back to this island that we are making, and I keep forgetting about this boy. Why do I keep leaving him here? Little gun shark. I have no idea. Last time we were working on an island peninsula, we have the largest shipwreck we can get our hands on, we have some offshore cliffy boys, they're kind of cool. We have a fallen tree in the middle of a forest and the island peninsula itself, which is all looking pretty sweet, if I'm gonna say so myself. So if we hop up into the sky, we can see we have kind of a horseshoe shape, and it's actually looking pretty good. I'm gonna be honest, it's coming together quite nicely. It was a little bit sketchy to begin with, the whole idea of just stuffing a set piece onto a basic island, one that the map editor gave us, and then just kind of working out from there kind of was different to what we'd been doing before in making islands, but it seems to be working out quite well. Now, this time what I thought we could do is come back here and work on these sea stacks. Wait, what? Sea stacks? Add more of them, did you say? Yeah, kind of. I want a little bit of a jumpy boy puzzle, a little bit of a puzzle which we can hop, jump and climb over, maybe going out into the sea itself. We can build some way out, not all the way out. It's a little bit tricksy to do that. You can only go so far into the sea before the map editor stops you. It takes your hand and says, no, that is enough. So we have something here that a player can already jump up and get some altitude, so I think we can work from there. Interesting. Great. If you are watching these as they go out, I was meaning to record this yesterday, but my neighbors came home during quarantine with a chest of drawers, and I was like, huh. And then proceeded to use a hand sander on it all day for about 5 hours, and I was like, that sounds a lot like Grandma's rattling around in an empty drawer. Grandma's pager. Kids, ask your parents what a pager is. So anyway, we are going to be using probably Clef 2 because it is big boy. Look at that. It just comes out of the sea like some sort of science fiction nightmare, and it is indeed quite big, but we can use this as a foundation of a jumping puzzle. We can also put these out quite far into the sea before the game says no. So about here. Now here's the thing, I was thinking about this. How do you know how far a player can jump? That is an excellent question. It is one that I can answer. So what we're going to do is we've taken this out of the rocks palette. In fact, let's go back. Let's take a step back momentarily to go through the controls, because if you're joining us just now, we are using some weird controls. We are using W to go forward, S to go back, A to go left, D to go right, Q to go down, E to go up. We hold the right mouse button to pan around, because that's what we do. We press F to focus on an object. We can press C to clone it. We can press D to delete. Clickety click, because you can't press carriage return to delete an object. Is that all the controls? No. Once an object is selected, you can press R to rotate and T to transform. That now is all the controls until I remember some more of them. Anyway, you do have buttons at the top, so if for whatever reason an object is not behaving, even though you know you've got it selected, just click the buttons, because sometimes the shortcuts don't work. There you go. And they're at the bottom of the screen as well. Clone is there, delete is there. And if you select something, the little eye with the object, that's focus. Hooray! We've got everything sorted. Let's go back to the complicated stuff. It's not complicated really. It's just dragging stuff out of a toolbox and moving it around in a 3D space. Not complicated at all. Anyway, I want this to be a little higher than the one that we've got. We're going to need the gap a little close, but not too close. And I want it to be out at sea, so we can kind of do this. Right. Last time when we touched these sea stacks, what we did is we put some land on the inside so that during a storm the sea wouldn't just kind of crash over this. Interesting. What we can do here is, because they're so tall, we can kind of not do that and just allow the sea to go around them during a storm. What I need to do though is just make sure that it doesn't look too bad from the land itself, and this is kind of not looking great, so what I might want to do is move it like so. There we go. Because I want the visuals from the land as if the player is standing on the beach going, this is interesting. That looks better. we're kind of keeping an eye on the vista itself. Ah, beautiful. Everything must look good because, well, because that's the aesthetic we're going for. We want people to be able to play and hop and jump and run and skip and all this sort of cool stuff all over the island. But, if it doesn't look good, what's the point? What's the point? So that looks like a good position. I might want a little bit of extra height because we've just put it down. If we go under the water mesh, because there's no fog layer to say that, ooh, you're now underwater. Yeah, that looks fine. So how do we know how far the player can jump? Well, we're going to hit on terrain, then objects. So we deselect the object. We are going to go to structures. We are going to find sea fort bridge broken. Wait a second. And it, for some reason, it spawns under the ground. Yep. So we're going to have to drag it to a position, an empty section of the island where we can just whip it up, and then drag it over here. So this is about as far as a player can jump here, but there's more to it than meets the eye, like robots. Wait a second. Yeah, so a player will jump from one side to the other, but it's a very tricky jump at this distance. So what we can do is then use something to measure it. Hello, door. I like you. I think, I have a feeling I already know the answer to this. Why don't you just use the seaford bridges? Because we've done this before and I want it to be au naturel. So, you know, that's cool. What I'm going to do is use the door, old Mr. Door, as a way of measuring the gap. Mind the gap. Interestingly, they never say please mind the gap. Please mind the gap. I think the please we all add in our heads. That's the thing they say on railway stations when there's a gap between the train and the platform. Is mind the gap. But being British, you're like, please mind the gap. I think about there is as much as a player can jump. Taking into the account that you can jump and then you usually grab the orange handle, and by that point you're in the falling animation, or you're kind of falling, your body's halfway, so the head is above, the body's below. Yeah, I think that's about right. So we can now get rid of this, I think, by doing this. Let's get rid of that. So, no, how are we gonna move this? Because we can't move these two pieces together. We're absolutely not. So what we're going to do is just delete them straight up. Now we know kind of roughly where everything needs to be. Let's get rid of that and that. What we're going to do is come here and then just drag in a fresh door. What? Yep. So we can drag it. It sticks to an object. Press R to rotate. Draggity drag. And then C to clone. E to transform. Boom. So it was about a door and a half. Oh. The other thing we're going to have a problem with is so many objects in close proximity. What? I think it was handle to handle, wasn't it? Never go handle to handle. I mean... Wait. No, ignore me. I think the handle to handle is probably fine. So we're going to need some rocks. Riggedy rocks. Big rock. Hello. I like you, Big Rock 1. You've got a big flat side to you, I think. Yes. So as we pull out of the toolbox, it's going to stick to whatever surface it's on, whether it's island mesh or whether it's another object. As soon as we let go, that feature goes away. Can't never get it back unless you delete the object and then drag a new one out of the toolbox. So what we're going to do is drag it and then R to rotate. Hello. It's got a big flat side to it. It's a really cool feature of this object. Nice. Well, is this going to work? Look, I don't know. I really don't know. We're playing now. We're experimenting. What we do know is that if you want something like this to be a gap, a little bit of a gappy boy, you need a higher point to a lower point just to cover either a player messing up the jump, mistiming the jump. We don't want it to be difficult, like impossible. If you make something that's frustrating, players will try it a couple of times and then they will just give up. There are people who will do it, But if you've only got 10% of your player base being able to do something, and the rest of the player base just can't do it, that rest of the player base is going to get upset and just give up. You want to make it easy. Make it seem difficult, but make it actually easy. Good thing there. So it's like playing Dungeons and Dragons. Never, ever, ever punish your players for something. I mean, unless they're a bunch of murder hobos, in which case then punish them. But they should feel like the hero. So the dragon that they're fighting is very, very tough, very difficult. But they should be able to defeat it, and they should feel like the hero, because that is the nature of playing games for fun. So what we're doing is we're just taking Small Rock 3, which has a flat top to it, and because the texture blends in with the other rock, what we can do is we can just add a little, that's going to happen a lot, so the objects are going to snap from one thing to another. So we have, in a 3D space, we have height, we have a gap. I think what we'll do is just use a single door. That's probably the best thing. Terrain objects, structures, door, hello, AM door. There you go. I think a single door is probably as much as the player can jump, given that we also have an altitude difference. I think that's fine. So we need to make it that they can fail, but not every time. If you see what I mean. I think that's the right object that we've got deleting. Yeah, it is. So we have a slight problem here. We do have a significant gap. It is a significant gap. That doesn't look quite right from the outside, so we're going to hit R to rotate. We're going to kind of, and then T to transform, and just kind of bring it in. Going to move the camera around in 3D space just to make sure that everything looks fine. Everything does look fine. This down here is kind of now in the way. We put it in just to show that there is some sort of kind of decay going on. I'm going to get rid of that object for the time being. So now we've got an obvious ramp up, then a gap. Now what we can do is make this tower taller without changing anything here. So the jump is going to be the same, and we can change the height of this, we can change the rotation, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to change it up just a little bit. Is that naughty? Is that a naughty thing to do? I don't know. Very naughty. Oof. Totes naughts. We also have another slight problem. Bloop. It's not very deep. Not very deep. Not very deep. I'm going to go to train. We are going to click on the cog. We are going to click on display ocean. The ocean is now off. It is a fun time for everyone. We're going to hit read terrain, the middle button, middle of the trees, these three objects, read terrain, paint height, and then I'm going to change it, take a smaller brush, change the size of the brush down. It's still red, so we're going to click here, boop, just the bottom of the screen, just when it starts to get real deep. We're going to make sure the amount slider is down because it's inherited between these three brushes, which is annoying as butts, but this is what we've got. And then we're just going to brush around here. Oh no, but we are exposing the bottom of this object. No, we're not. No, we're not. Nope. Because we made sure to put this object quite deep into the ground so that if we did need to change the terrain afterwards, then we could. Oh, okay. That's a neat thing. Cool. Carry on. I will. Thank you. Yeah, I want the sea to be kind of deep around here. So what we're doing is just pushing it back. And because we read the terrain set height, you can't push it any deeper than what we set. Also, when you take the water layer off, the shadows go crazy. I don't know why this is. I don't know why this is. I kind of have an idea, but I'm not going to go into it. It's complicated and boring, and I don't want to bore you with the little harsh truth nuggets. I'm going to change the amount slider up. This is the smoothing tool. It's a big soft brush, and make it a slightly smaller soft brush. There we go. Smooth this area out. Smoothy, smoothy, smooth. Excellent. You would never know. You would never know. That's better. So we're just taking some of the jaggies off. This is all going to be underwater anyway, and it's not so much of a problem if there's jaggies underwater in the island terrain. Oh, the shadows have righted themselves. They're mapped to the surface of the sea, the surface of the water. I still think the shadow on the surface of the water is a little bit too dark. I'm not entirely sure if there's a way around that, because I think the mesh, the water mesh, isn't made by Beam Team. And Crash Cat. Yes, I just had to go and get the door because trinkets are being delivered for another project on the channel. Interesting. I also have a camcorder for the first time ever. Another trinket for the channel that may come to fruition. Things are moving in the background like you would not believe. At least I don't believe them. Yeah, the water mesh. It's I think it's one of those assets that you can get because it's so complicated. People just, this is what some people do, and it looks great, but it is a separate entity. So below water, above water, this kind of entire layer is something unto itself. Anyway, getting back to the matter in hand, we have this, and it is now deep enough to swim in. So if you do fall, it's not so much of a problem. You're not going to break all your legs, all well, however many legs you've got. Anyway, we're going to go back to rocks. We got these big rocks, and they're good rocks, and they taste like, well, they taste like rocks. Wait, are rocks friends? Big Rock 3, answer that for me. I don't really know. So what we can do now is R to rotate, T to transform. We can bring it up. Wait, what are you doing? I am making a walkway. Oh yeah, cool. And we're gonna kind of rotate it around a little bit so things underneath don't look so kind of obvious. But once you're up here, it's kind of obvious. It's a little bit obvious, just a little bit obvious. We can have things that are a little bit obvious. We're gonna also make it not so smooth. So look at that, there's a big old gap. This is why you move the camera around a lot. You're like, oh, look at that, Indiana Jones, if that is your real name. Gap there for you to jump, even though you've just jumped something else. Get your hibbity hop on, old chum. So yeah, great. That looks pretty good. I'm kind of happy with that. We're going to hit terrain and objects, and that is the reason we hit terrain and objects. Two reasons is that we deselect the object that we are working on. But it also means if we drag something out of the toolbox, sometimes you get in a situation where the object that you previously had selected and the object that you've just dragged out of the toolbox move simultaneously. It's a bit of a bug, and I think it's a Windows bug or just an interface bug or a GUI bug or something, some weird buggy-do bug, and basically you just end up moving what you've already placed. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt. Always hit terrain, always hit objects, and then go back to the toolbox. It is a tip, and if it works, you will never have a problem. You'll be like, oh, I don't know what the problem is. Kind of the idea, I guess. We've got Small Rock 1. Hello, Small Rock 1. How are you doing today? Are you my friend? Probably. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just here. It's kind of a little bit of a thing. Right, cool. So we can move this out. We're gonna just kind of push them into the cliff itself, because I just kind of wanna. I just want a little gap there. Like I said before, we want people to be able to jump. We want those gaps. We want them to see the sea, but we don't want it to be too difficult, because if it's too difficult, why would you do the thing? Why would you do the thing? So we've got that there, and then we're going to hit terrain and objects again, because that is a good placement for that. There is another thing that we can do here. Mining rocks? No. Why would we do that? So we need the big rocks, we need the small rocks. That's huge. Frankly, my dear, that's too big. That's too big. Why would we even do this to ourselves? I don't know. It's a curious one, certainly. So we're rotating, we're pressing T to transform. We're pushing that in, and we're bringing that up, and we're going to drop it down a little bit so we can get this little rocky boy. Now, I think I always underestimate how high the player can actually jump, based on the fact that the player can jump further and farther and higher than ever before. In fact, some of these cliff pieces the player can just scale like a goat, and it is kind of Curious how much a player can actually do. So we're going to move this forward. It looks really weird working in 3D space using X, Y, Z axis as a toggle. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think that's too big. That's too big. This is not working. My brain's like, you know what you're doing here? And I'm like, yeah, we need smaller rocks, don't we? No, yes, you're going down a path. This is a folly. Why would you carry on with the folly? And I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. So we're going to use small rock 3, auto rotate. Let's do this. This is why we didn't do a super cut, a super edit. What we want is all the mistakes in, make mistakes, and then fix them on the fly, and that's the important thing. That's the most interesting thing, I think. Fixing things? What? Where am I from? Freaking the place where everything is a thing? LA? Am I from Los Angeles? I don't know. So let's put this here. This is small rock 1, and we know we can make steps. Los Angeles. That is a weird place. I looked at it in Google VR once. I got super confused. I was like, what? How do people... How? It's kind of a... There's no center to it. It's not... No. So we've placed... what did we do? Small rock 3, small rock run? 1? English. Press R. Nope. Press C. Yeah! There we go. To clone. And then we make some steps. What? Yeah, we can make a little steppy boys that go up. That's fine. So we can do this. Little helpful steps. Now we can press R to rotate. Because what you can do is change the orientation of the step. And just pull one out and one in. So one looks a little bit more warm than the other. That should be fine in terms of mantling and scaling. There is no mantle mechanic as such in the game, but that should be fine. I just want to make sure there is enough surface area for the player to actually climb up. It is subtle. It is deep. I mean, you are stranded in the deep. It's fine. And then what we can do is we can move onwards, ever onwards. So we hit terrain and objects. We want to do things in 3s. So we want the climbing 1, hopping 1, 2, and then 3. Everything in 3s or 7s. That's how the human brain works. If you're like, ooh, how does the human brain work? Well, you either work in 3s, always give people 3 options, or 7s. And that's it. That's basically it. So, yeah. That's how the human brain works. 3, 5, and 7. Never 4, never 6, never 2. Would you like... In fact, no, if you're asking someone what they want for tea, never ask them what they want for dinner. Just give them dinner. If you're cooking, just whatever people get, they get. That's what my grandmother always said. And she was a wise lady. Right, so we've got this thing going on here. We're going to have to fill in the bottom of this because it's looking a bit obs that we've done something obvious. Do we want... Now, here's the thing. We're going to come over here and just have a little look from here. That's okay. That's okay. I kind of want that to be open, though. Let's do this. It's better. Okay. So that's better. If you're over here, you want the ability to see through that gap. That's fine. Excellent. Boom! Hold down shift and then be in the sun, because apparently that's how this works. So we've got this area here. 1, 2, 3 little pillars. 3 little pillars. Sounds like an Agatha Christie novel. Wait, I know Agatha Christie. Yeah, so do I. Well, not personally. That would be very difficult. Yeah. So we can do this with Big Rock 2. Rotor rotate. And then go for the old... Because we've already established that this can happen by having the stack over here with the rocks that are kind of perched on top of each other. So what we're doing is we're going to make a little bridgey boy over here. I mean, it could be that the player just decides, you know what, I'll just hop onto here and then up here. And that's fine. I've just beat your little puzzle. Whatever. I mean, you can do it one way or you can do it the other, or you can do it no ways. You can just ignore it in its entirety. I have no problem with that. We're going to stop that, though, momentarily, because I do have a problem with that. Just a little one, but it's fine. That is kind of that's a bit of a chunky rock. Sorry. I have to get rid of you for the good of the people. Big rock 1. Big rock 1. There we go. It's kind of a more rounded rock. Rolling rock? No, just a rounded rock. Okay. So can we do this in a way where the player doesn't break their legs? Oh. Or do we want it in a way that a player does break the legs as a way of saying, you know, congratulations, hey, you've broken your legs. Oh no. That's a tough choice. Tough choice. There was a game. There is a game technically, but there was a game. And that was Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines? Vampire Bloodlines the Masquerade? Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, I think it was. By Troika. And Troika made this game, and it was based on the Source engine. And then Valve delayed the release of Half-Life 2 for a year after a bunch of code allegedly got stolen. I don't really know about that. This is not working. I'll get rid of that. Use Big Rock 2. Let's go back to what we know. So yeah, Troika released this game, and it was infamous because it was buggy as anything. And the reason was that because Valve went, you can't release a game on the Source engine before Half-Life 2 is actually released. Sorry, but you're gonna have to delay. And Troika went, we've got no money left. Goodbye. And that was the end of Troika. But they made this game, and it was actually a pretty decent game for the time, if you could get around all the bugs. And one of the choices, you had a human companion, like I can't remember what they call it, a ghoul, I think. It's based off White Wolf vampire rules, from what I remember. And there was a bit halfway through the game, and it was just like, you have to send her away, or she dies. If you want to do the kind thing, you have to send her away and hurt her feelings. Or you can do the mean thing, you can be mean to her, but she'll live. And it was one of those choices that was so... It upset so many players that eventually everyone just downloaded a mod so you could keep her around and she didn't die. Yeah. So we could make a little thing here where the player can get across to get some treasure and break their legs. But that would just be us being mean, just because we can. So let's not do that. Let's go grab a door. Train objects. I want a door. D-O-O-R. Items, structures, door. Hello. I'd like you to be here. Thank you. That's a heckin' jump. That's a heck of a jump. That is something the player is not likely to make. You'll leap, and then you'll miss every time. How do we do this? Well, we're going to have to use some smaller rocks. Because, well, why would we not? So, we're going to go down here. No, we're not. We were in structures. Why is structures still open? Why didn't you tell me structures were still open? Small rock 3. Hello. You may be the savior we have been looking for. Rudder rotate. You're going to be a pain in my butt until you get to a point where we can actually use you properly. Rotate, rotate, rotate. There we go. T to transform. And then just try and grab the red toggle. Right. I think that's a little bit better. I think that will work. Oh yeah, no, that'll very much work. Okay, cool. It's not looking great here though. Doesn't look au naturel. Yeah, there's something wrong with this. Let's get rid of that. Let's move this out. How far out can we pull it? We can do it in a different way entirely. So I think that should still be manageable. Because remembering that the player's not going to jump from this area in front of the rock, because the rock actually starts to drop down. So they're going to be jumping from about here. I reckon that's completely possible. So let's get rid of the door. Thank you. You have done valiant service. We're now going to need to build up this area here with extra rocky bits. How are we going to do that? I'm going to click on the stack and I'm going to hit clone. Just see with it selected. We're going to make sure T is there for transform. And now we've got two of the things. It's kind of like that Voyager episode where the ship split in half. But what we're going to do is hit R to rotate. We're going to grab the green part of the toggle and rotate it around. Then we're going to press T to transform. And then going to drag it in a little bit. Immediately sealing that little problem that we had there where the player may have been able to mantle up to an area we didn't want them to get to. Let's move that back a bit because we're kind of blocking off some of those rocks there. I think we might be able to pull these out a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah, we can. The nice thing about using separate items on this area here, and then we can have a big old gap here. So, C decline, C decline, R to rotate, and there we go. Excellent, 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 excellent. That's looking pretty sweet. But wait, it is looking pretty sweet, and there is a kind of a soft jumping puzzle right there. So the jumpy boy puzzle is kind of in place, but it does kind of look a little awkward. So C decline, we transform, and then drop that down into the ocean. What are you doing? Some sort of witchcraft. I know, right? It is a little bit like that. I'm sorry, but it is. There we go. So that's a lot better than it was. Just by a couple of clones, and now it's all pulled out a little bit. So yeah, that's looking pretty sweet. Now we can start adding trees and foliage and all manner of other things to it, which is, gonna be honest, probably something we're gonna have to finish off in a different video. But we've got the nature of our little puzzle boy is there. I think that's going to work quite well. And there is a gap here, but I think that's going to be eminently walk-overable, mantleable. We could fill it in, a little clone, and then just pull that back and that out a little bit. Just to finish that off, and then we're over here. So we're going to need something over here at some point. We can hit terrain and objects, and then what we could essentially do is just copy what we've done over there. And add trees and foliage and things to the top. And that's not even going to be that tricksy. But you know what? I'm going to leave that there for the time being. So what we have is a little jumpy boy puzzle. Look, you can go from the sea, which you have to swim out to get to anyway. So you go from the sea, and then you get to the jumpy boy puzzle. And then what we'll do is put some treasure up here, which will be kind of sweet and neat and a tasty treat. Excellent. So if you're liking this, I would say just leave a little like, leave a little subscribe, and if you do subscribe, click the little bell because that'll give you notifications when videos go live. And I'll tell you what, I'll catch you next time.